The following is an exclusive presentation of WI Garden Media. This is Time by the Tent podcast with your host, Joey and Holly Baird. Coming up on the program today, we're going to talk about preparing wood for your campsite, as well as lighting your campsite, the options you may not know are available. Our guest is YouTube creator from Lone Crow Adventures. Samantha will be with us. The show's full, so join us. Welcome to Time by the Tent. I'm Joey Baird. Time by the Tent podcast. I'm Joey Baird. Beside me is my wife, co-host, best friend, and camping partner,
Holly Baird.
This program is for you for public and private land, hiking, outdoor land ownership, and more. Thank you for taking time to download the program or viewing it on our YouTube channel, Time by the Tent. You can find all past shows on our parent website underneath the camping and camping podcast tabs. That website is the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com. We also have a national garden radio show. If you're interested in that, you can check that out too at that website. You can send us an email, TWVGshow, TWVGshow at gmail.com, TWVGshow at gmail.com if you've got a question or you want to add to the conversation. You can also give us a call anytime, 24/7 to 1-800-927-SHOW. That's 1-800-927-7469.
Well, we have a show today.
Going to talk about cutting, processing, prepping wood for your campsite.
And I was thinking maybe we should talk about public land ownership at some point.
Yes, we will. Yeah.
All right. So anyway, we are talking about...
First of all,
cutting wood.
If you go to a public campsite, many campsites in the public domain do not allow you to scavenge for wood in the woods nearby your campsite. You are forbidden to do that, and if you do that, you do it under the shade of darkness so nobody knows. But most times you either have to buy the wood at the facility or on the premises, or you go and buy it within a certain parameter outside of that camping area based on the laws and regulations in your particular area. Typically, the wood is about $1 million a bundle, and it burns in about 5 seconds. So keep that in mind.
It really does. And
it is dry wood, and that's part of the gimmick to let's make it as dry as possible so it burns as quick, so they have to buy more.
Absolutely. So, you want to find ways to get creative. Now, if you are camping on a public campsite, they don't want you to just like pull the wood out of the woods. They also don't want you to bring in
logs and you cut them up off the back of your car or truck.
Right. So because of invasive species, especially I know here in our state home, Wisconsin, there's an emerald ash borer. So there's reasons for that. Now you can get creative. You can oftentimes find campsite approved wood for sale when you're driving on the way there. You'll see it at gas stations. You'll see it sometimes at outside of people's homes.
Right. Within 10 miles of the state forest where the public land is in Wisconsin is the rule or law or however you want to look at it. You can't buy wood outside of that parameter of 10 miles.
Right.
So once we obtain the wood, now here, let's look at the other side of this. If you have your own property or you are going to a hip camp and they allow you to salvage for wood in their woods. We've gone to one, and we've gone to two separate ones, and the one allows, the other one doesn't. But if you're on your own property, then wood availability pretty much is not an issue. However, the preparation in order to use that wood for campfire and cooking is a little different in the cautionary measures in which one needs to take. You're buying the wood at the campsite, at the public campsite, you're cutting open the bag, you're putting it on the fire, boom, it's gone. private land, you are typically using, in some instances, mechanical means in order to harvest the wood, whether it's down or you need to cut it down.
So you mean like a chainsaw?
Chainsaw or axe. And there are some some cautionary measures one needs to be aware of if you're cutting a tree down. There's many great tutorials online, but essentially the bottom line is know where it's going, have an escape route, and properly cut the tree so it doesn't barber chair and kill you.
Right.
Barber chair is whenever you don't cut it right and it starts falling and then it splinters out and kicks back and knocks anything out behind you.
Right. So, yeah, you want to be aware and be safe and make the best decisions possible.
So chainsaw, you're not going to typically use that at a public campsite or a hip camp. That's going to be more of a private use thing. Now, an axe or a hatchet, you potentially would take that to a public campsite, because these logs, if you're looking to chop them down fine enough in order to create kindling, then a fire starter, then you can certainly do that. And a hatchet is good if you get the right kind of hatchet, and not the El Cheapo one we bought on sale that we had to resharpen once we got it. Typically, the hatchet has a hammer or a flat surface in which you can take 10 stakes in, or nail something in, or pound something in, or whatever you need. It's a hammer.
Right. It's dual purpose, basically. And so then we have the hatchet. Then we have what's called a bow saw or a folding saw. Yeah. And those are the same, but not the same.
Right. A bow saw is a large, up to 30 inches, in most cases 24, 30 inches. It's got a hoop on it where you can cut wood. A folding saw is like a giant pocket knife. That's a saw. And these are typically more user-friendly for smaller applications. If you're cutting down a small tree, limbing, if you're creating a trail on your property, these are tools that would be better, that you don't have to lug a chainsaw around if you're just trying to trim or limb up trees in that instance. So, and knowing the type of wood, you can, like we talked about, the wood in which you buy is dry as can be and is very flammable, because that's what that's how they make it and that's what they want. If you are harvesting your own wood, fresh wood or green wood, live tree wood, it does burn, but it takes a lot of accelerants and time in order to ignite that green, pulpy wood, sapwood.
Unless you find an elbow log.
Well, that had been there for a while. Tell the story.
All right. So Joey and I, we were camping at this hip camp, and somewhere by the woods, you found this log that looked, to me, it looked like an elbow. It had kind of like an L shape, and not quite an L shape, and it was very large.
2 foot long, and it had a 45-degry angle in it, and it was about 8 inches in diameter.
Yeah, it was a big piece of lumber there, and I called it the elbow log, and we finally put on the fire, and it kind of just burned overnight. Yeah, it took
about 24 hours to really burn all the way through. But with that instant, it's going to take a while to, you want to get aged wood or seasoned wood. What that means is seasoned wood is it's cut down today.
Does that mean somebody put some spices on it?
No, it's cut down today, and it's let aged for a whole season or a whole year. Mm-hmm. Some people will split the wood in order to get it to dry out quicker. When you are looking for trees to cut down, you're not looking to cut down the biggest, livest tree you can. You're looking to cut down trees that have already died, either recently or some time ago, because that wood is going to be already seasoned or dry to some magnitude where you can use it relatively quickly. And another helpful tip for those whom are camping or residing on their land for weekend recreational use, if you're intending to use that land over the course of as long as you can until the snow says you can't, even during the summer, the spring, the summer, the fall, take a little time each weekend or whenever you're there, set a time apart, and only work on wood preparation. cut so much wood, split so much wood, stack so much wood. So when that cold time comes, you're not outside the tent or the cabin cutting wood because it's cold and you didn't have the wood prepped. Now on the farm, we would have stacks of wood that had been seasoned, and then we would just take the tractor and load it up and then back it in the shed and then cut it there. What we obviously didn't prep everything, but it was all within a very close proximity to the house that we needed it.
Right. So one thing I want to talk about is the difference between an axe and a hatchet.
Okay.
So a hatchet is smaller. It's like handheld.
24-inch handle.
Yeah.
Maybe 30 at the best.
Right. And then a axe is longer, and that's what... Okay, so what I'm trying to ask here is...
Yes.
Can you split wood with both?
You can split wood with both. An axe will, with a longer handle, a 48 or 60-inch handle, with a large 5 to 8 pound head on it, will penetrate through the wood much easier than a hatchet that is 1 to 3 pounds and only a 20 to 30 inch handle. The centrifugal force and the weight is going to crack the wood much easier. Also depends on the wood too. Pine splits a lot easier than ash or elm or oak, which are all very hard woods. Maple is a very soft wood. So it also depends on what type of wood you're cutting and how many knots and how dry it is. The drier the wood, the easier it is to cut or split.
Right. Yep. Okay.
And when you look at the top of a piece of wood that's cut, like sawed, let's say it's 12 inches in length, you want to look at where the natural cracks are, and that's where you want to start splitting, because it's going to be more probable to split along those cracks than just to go, okay, I'm just going to hit in the middle and see what happens.
That makes sense. Yeah, you definitely want to do that. And I had a thought, but I lost it. But I am very excited for us to get an axe and for me to split some wood.
Cut some wood.
Yeah.
You do want to be cautious that you are aware of how you hit the top of the wood that you're splitting. Because if it shears off one way or another, that axe head is going to go, and you need to be careful of where the ricochet is going to happen.
Like your shins?
Like your shins.
Yeah.
I've never had that happen, but you need to be aware of how things can potentially, when you split the wood's typically going to go right and left, and you want a very strong stump to cut on.
So it's not like tippy.
And it's not tippy, right?
Yeah.
Even if you have to get a larger stump and kind of dig it slightly into the ground to firm it in, to have a foundation to where you're not going to hit it and then it's going to wobble, and then you got to fight two pieces of wood whenever you're splitting.
Yeah, that would be not fun.
Yeah. So we're kind of going back and forth from public land to your own land, but a lot of it is applicable, and you just need to be aware of safety first. And we talked about this a couple of shows ago. You were hiking, and there was a individual or people who money was not an issue because they wanted a lot of wood.
Oh, yeah. That's right. It was at a popular state park, and I was parked by the ranger station, whatever you want
Ranger
to call
danger.
it.
No, that's not right.
Ranger station.
That's stranger danger.
And they were by the wood pile, and they were putting the wood in their SUV. And
in Wisconsin, it comes in giant, well, I call them onion sacks, where they pack enough, about the size of what a diameter of a 5-gallon bucket. They slide it in the bag and charge $6 to $8.
These were some sort of twine straps.
They were wrapped around.
It just probably depends on who the supplier is. But yeah, they were adding these bundles to their SUV, and then the lady said to her friend, "Okay, that's blah blah blah. Go tell the guy." And it was like 20. I don't know how much it was. It was like
more than
did I say 70 or something.
I think you said 54. More than you would have felt comfortable burning up in a weekend.
Yeah. And then she was like, "I don't know if I have cash." And they're like, "I think they take cards." And okay, if they take cards, then we'll do 2 more or whatever. I don't know. So, yeah, that's the thing. And as I know the state park well, and there are places you can buy wood outside of the state park that are cheaper.
But still, you're looking at, realistically, you put all the wood you bought, let's say it's $7, on the fire at once, it's gone in about an hour. You've got to really pace yourself or go, okay, we're going to have a really tiny fire until we need to cook. And then we're going to have really a lot of fun for 25 minutes until it's all burnt up, and then that's it.
That's the thing, is that
I understand people got to make money, but come on.
Right. But I'm just saying that if you, first of all, if you are camping during the summer and it's 80 degrees out, why are you having a fire?
Bugs.
Yeah,
to keep the bugs away.
Okay. Second of all, if you are camping and it's 40 degrees out, then you need to figure something out, because if you're using the wood to keep you warm, that's totally valid, but it can get costly.
Well, at that one hip camp that we were at, where you were allowed by the owners to salvage for wood in the woods, we had a very large fire because the wood was not, you just keep bringing it out and piling it on.
Yeah, it was very enjoyable.
And that's the way on your own private land. If you have 1 acre, that's a little different than if you have 40. If you have 40 acres, you don't feel too bad about using down trees first, and then, okay, that tree's dead, let's cut that one down. If you have 1 acre and you only have a couple of trees on it, then you're kind of in the public campground mindset of, I don't have enough trees to burn here.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that you have to consider these things when you're camping, whether it be on a state or county or whatever ran campsite, or if it's a private campsite or your own land. You want to think about how you're going to make a fire, keep a fire going, if you're going to cook over, etc.
So, I think we've talked about fire starters before, but cutting wood preparation, there you go. Hopefully that has helped you in your camping experience. Hang out with us when we come back. Lighting at camp. We'll go over some options that you can incorporate into your weekend activities. You're tuned in to Time by the Tent podcast. Goodbye, biting bugs and plant invaders. No More Bugs by Natural Green Products is your answer. A product pioneered by the USDA and 14 years in business, No More Bugs has been the favorite by consumers across the country. More than a repellent, it is safe for you, your pets, your plants, and your home. Visit nomorebugs.net for free shipping on orders over $50. Use coupon code FREESHIP for me. That's free ship, the number 4, me.
Grip 6 produces American-made products with sleek designs and quality materials. Based and manufactured in Utah, they have a high quality and durable products to last a lifetime. They're built beyond tough. Their wool socks come from the Rocky Mountains, and even for the most sensitive toes, these socks are made for everyone. High-quality wool socks make a huge difference for happy feet. You can wear them around the house, daily, to the outdoors, to the garden, etc. And we are glad that we made the switch ourselves, because they are incomparable to any other sock we have worn. Designed and manufactured in-house for the best results and quality every time. When you purchase from Grip 6, you're supporting long life cycle products and American-made manufacturing. Check out their belts, wallets, and socks at grip6.com and coupon code radio15 to save 15% off your order at grip6.com. Fleet Farm is your one-stop shop for everything you need for your next big fishing trip. Check out their huge selection of gear like rods, reels, exclusive lures, and more. Shop top brands like Rapella, Berkeley, St. Croix, and Clam. Plus, you can even pick up live bait and get your fishing license right there at the store. Before you hit the water, make sure you get a bite with help from Fleet Farm, your fishing headquarters. Wind River Chimes creates a symphony in any space. Chimes that are inspired by nature and designed to make the natural world even more inspiring. Music speaks to everyone. Individually handcrafted in Virginia for over 35 years and hand-tuned for exceptional precision and lasting beauty. Because in life, the winds of change are always moving. But no matter where they carry you, Wind River Chimes is always inspiring harmony. With a large selection and customization options, you will find the sound that soothes you. Visit windriverchimes.com to find out more.
Welcome back to Time by the Tent podcast. I'm Joey Baird.
I'm Holly Baird.
And we're going to discuss lighting at camp. Now, lights are important for a variety of reasons at camp, but we're going to tackle the private land as well as the public campground lighting recommendations on our behalf here, and kind of share what our thoughts are on how it's best and what we have used in order to light our campground or campsite.
Right, and maybe some that we have not used.
Right, and you're going to look at, on a public campsite in Wisconsin, at least, and we've seen videos of where it's basically 40 people in a parking lot next to some trees, and that's their campsite with a couple of night lights, and they got the tent set up, and the end of story. But in Wisconsin, there is some separation between campsites, and it does get dark. There's no additional light provided by the state at the campsite. So the campfire does illuminate, but as we talked about in the first segment, that only lasts so long based on how much money you're willing to spend.
Yeah, and so either way, it doesn't matter if you are going to light a huge fire or not. There's going to be places that you need to go when you're camping, whether it be someplace if you're on a regular campsite, the bathrooms, right, or just to your tent or whatever. So, you want to think about these things. Now, when I was growing up, we had these huge Coleman lanterns that took these huge batteries. They weren't huge. The lanterns weren't huge, but they took these huge batteries, and then we had flashlights that took batteries. But now,
that was 30 years ago.
Okay, first of all, it wasn't. Okay, it was like 20 to 30 years ago.
Uh-huh.
Okay, anyway, so now things have changed, and we have some rechargeable stuff. Actually, all of it's rechargeable.
Right.
And then we do have some, what's it called? Kerosene.
Yeah, lanterns.
Lanterns.
Yeah. So that you can look at it that way. There is lanterns in which you can use, and it is fueled. They have the LED lanterns, and they have kerosene or paraffin wax oil lanterns, interchangeable there, and you can use those outdoors based on what type of fuel you use. It is either safe to use inside your tent or camper or home, or it is not safe to use inside those inside, and only are recommended to be used outside.
Right. Yep. So you want to keep that in mind with the kerosene, the paraffin, whatever. So we did some, I guess, research here.
Uh-huh.
And with the kerosene versus it was olive oil. Or
cooking oil. You can use cooking oil in a lantern. This is a flat wick lantern. It will work. It doesn't absorb as quickly or have as a predominant flame or brightness of flame, but it will work. But olive oil can be more expensive than kerosene or the paraffin wax oil in your lantern. Kerosene, you want to use the K1 style or brand, not brand, but formulation in order to K1 kerosene, which is affordable and readily available at filling stations, and they've got pre-made containers at most big box stores and camping stores, and it is a better burning kerosene for your lantern, either lamp or lantern, but is not safe to use indoors because if you're going to use it, let's say in a tent, you want to have very good ventilation because it will put off a smoke. Now, the paraffin oil does not. There are certain calibers of that which is certified or deemed safe, that is odorless and smokeless, in which you can safely use indoors. So you want to do your research on that and act accordingly to that. But the lanterns outdoors, you can, if you're on private property, you can, or public, you can surround your campfire with the lanterns to kind of illuminate the area. People will use tiki torches to not only control bugs, but also to illuminate. That is an outdoor only thing. And the effectiveness of a tiki torch with the
citronella
in it is only about a 3-foot diameter per torch.
Yeah, you
so that's
definitely
why
need-
you see so many of those torches. It looks
Yeah.
like the Survivor, voting in the show where we're going to vote this guy off the island. That's why you have to have so many in order to encapsulate the area to protect it from the insects.
I can't believe
Or protect you
I can't
from
believe Survivor's still on. Anyway, so yeah, these are your options. I want to note something though.
Yes.
If you have anything that has an open flame and you have a pet, a dog, or something that might be excitable and chase after it, knock over a candle, just use caution.
Well, you bring up candles. Candles can be used as well if done properly.
But the tiki torches are an open flame too.
Open flame, right?
Yeah.
But they're typically you're putting them in the ground, and they are 4 to 5 feet off the ground. So,
But you never know.
right, yeah, they can rub up against it and try to scratch their back or something of that.
So you just want to use caution. Small children, whatever, you have an open flame, just be careful. Think about that. And a lot of these tents are made out of nylon, flammable, can catch fire quickly. So you want to keep all that in mind.
Right, and
Fire safety.
fire safety.
Yeah.
Take a fire extinguisher with you. That's not a sissy way to go. It's a very smart way to have but never need in order to protect your stuff, because a candle or a lantern or something knocks over, even outside of the fire ring, if you're in leaves or it's been super dry, the grass is going to catch fire because it's like, it hasn't rained in 3 weeks, and crunch, crunch, crunch under your feet, it could ignite. And you can always be that superhero whenever somebody else has an issue and run over and play firefighter and take care of their problems too.
Maybe you could find a boyfriend or girlfriend that way.
Yeah. So flashlights, rechargeable. When you're looking for internal lights. Now, it depends on the type of tent in which you have. If you have a 14 by 16 wall tent that you're going to permanently leave for 3.5 seasons on your property, the light selection is going to be very different than if you have a pop-up dome tent that sleeps 2 people that you're only using overnight at your favorite public campsite. So the type of light is going to be something that you need to research. We are looking for the scenario 1, long-term permanent light, or some type of light that attaches to the rafters, that recharges, has a long life before it runs out, in which you could get a couple of nights out of, take it off the ceiling, take it home, charge it up. When you go back to the property, you can do it again. So that's something. You've got string lights. You've got the little LED kind of like a decorative sidewalk lights. Fairy lights. Yeah.
That's the thing, is that now you have all of these. You have mini solar panels that you can get for even to charge your phone with a battery pack, right? So you can get that for these small lights. Maybe you have some of these like fairy lights or decorative string lights. Then maybe you can find something that would solar charge them during the day. There's a lot of options, and you can play around. Those fairy lights might be enough that you need inside your tent in the evening time to get changed or get ready for bed, whatever. You don't necessarily need some huge airplane landing light.
No, 3 AA batteries, and you probably, last most of your camping season. But if you're going to be in the tent on your property for long periods of time, as the days get shorter, you're going to want to have some illumination inside the tent in whichever you can play games or sit around. So you're not sitting and dealing with one little lantern that's hanging from the ceiling when you've got a tent that's 224 square feet.
You're trying to squint at your playing cards or whatever.
Right. So having available light, even if in that situation where it's a more permanent, that you can have like a grid or sections, and it all runs off a power station or some type of rechargeable or solar chargeable power bank in which you leave there, and that's part of the your energy source, your own power station.
Yeah, so that's an option for recharging.
And we see now that you can get magnetic large floodlights in which you can put on the outside. You can hang them from a tree, or if you're truck camping, you can stick it to the side of your truck while you're preparing food. And they have, they have quite the lumens in brightness that really illuminates the whole area that you are at. And you can also do motion sensing lights if you are concerned about being aware of what's coming in and out of your camp. Now, this is not something you want to do at a public campsite when everybody's so close that every time the kid rides by on the bike or a raccoon runs through, everything lights up and you wake everybody up. This is more of a private or very distant campsite or private land where if you're concerned about or you want some, signal and something walks through it, lights up, then that's some option which you can do. And they have the LED rechargeable lights for that as well. So, but where the kerosene lights and all that, you want to be cautious of what the fuel is, your lanterns or your lamps when it comes to that. So, you got anything to add?
For the fuel lamps.
Yeah.
You can switch the oil out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're not committed. Say you're in a pinch, you use some cooking oil or something, and then you still go some kerosene or whatever. You can switch them out. You don't have to worry about cross-contamination.
No, it's all going to be flammable. The liquid paraffin will become a solid at about 15 degrees Fahrenheit. And it will significantly decrease the shelf life after that has thawed. It still will be flammable, it still will work, but it's not going to last very long. So if you're in that, I don't want to get kerosene yet, we're going to do the safe, the paraffin way, you can do that. And then as you get closer to cold temperatures, you can swap it out for the kerosene, which can be purchased in very safe, transportable containers, and you don't have to get a jug and go to your local gas station and get 5 gallons or 3 gallons or whatever. So hang out with us. When we come back, Samantha from Lone Crow Adventures will be with us. You're tuned in to Time by the Tent podcast.
Farm and garden in the ultimate comfort. Farmer's Defense has lightweight and durable sleeves made to protect you against the elements while farming. Farmer's sleeves offer unparalleled protection of arms and skin for any farmer, gardener, or outdoor worker. Say goodbye to irritated skin and sunburns in the garden. Their sleeves offer cooling comfort and protection against elements and outdoors. An alternative to thick clothing, Farmer's Defense is made of wicking material with UBF protection factor of 50+ to protect you from allergens and scratches. You can find all of their great products at farmersdefense.com.
Do you own property and you're trying to keep newly planted and established trees healthy and hydrated wherever they may be planted? Well, tree diaper technology can significantly increase the water to your trees. No pipes, no hoses needed. Hydrates from water, from rain, or when you water the trees. Eliminate watering altogether and let it take care of itself. Find all of the information out at treediaper.com. That's treediaper.com, and use coupon code GARDEN15 to save 15% off your order at treediaper.com. Hydrate those trees no matter where they're at on your property.
We are brought to you today by sponsor Walton's Inc. Listen, we know you care about where your food comes from, canning and preserving your fruits and vegetables. What about the meat? Maybe you hunted or trapped that meat. At Walton's, you can get all the equipment, seasoning, and supplies to make sausage, jerky, or any other product your way to your high standards. You want to make snack sticks that people will actually like? Walton's created meatgistics.com, an informational site to help you make the best finished product. They have spices, meat grinders, mixers, sausage stuffers to help you go from animal to edible. Walton's, everything but the meat. Oh, you can use code GROW50 to save 10% off orders of $50 or more.
Take those spices to the campsite with you. WaltonsInc.com. Welcome back to Time by the Tent podcast. I'm Joey Baird.
I'm Holly Baird.
And we appreciate you tuning in, downloading the program, watching us on YouTube. Holly, let's go to the hotline and bring in our guest for this week.
Samantha is the host and founder of Lone Crow Adventures YouTube channel. Her channel is dedicated to camping, hiking, backpacking, and outdoor adventures. If you're into gear reviews, camping, tips, secret hack, and outdoor adventures, Lone Crow Adventures YouTube channel is the right place. Videos are posted weekly. Welcome to Time by the Tent.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much for joining us and the information you're about to share with all of us. I'll start with this. How did you get into camping? Was it something that you've always done or you found it later on?
Well, kind of a combination answer. When I was a kid, we used to do a lot of fishing, and my mom was not a tent person.
Okay.
So between my mom and my dad, they found the happy medium of renting these rustic cabins, and they were really rustic. They had some running water, because that was mom's kind of minimum standard, but they were pretty dilapidated little cabins. And we had campfires, and it was a whole family thing where, my uncles would come and my cousins. And that's really kind of my first outdoor experience. And mom always refused to go tent camping. And it wasn't actually until, I would say 2005. And my dad had since passed away, and we had not been on any kind of these cabin adventures for years and years and years. And I finally convinced my mom as I was an adult. I said, I want to go tent camping. Why don't you come with me? And her and I went on our very first tent camping adventure. And it was just something that kind of it lit a spark in me. It was definitely a piece of my life that I had been missing for my whole life up until that point.
Wow.
And now doesn't your mom appear in some of your videos? Am I wrong about this?
Oh, no. Yes, she has,
Okay.
She's gotten into the hiking a little bit. That's been the latest adventure for her, is doing some, she hasn't done any overnight backpacking trips. I don't know if we'll get that far, but definitely some pretty serious day hikes, for somebody that doesn't hike. They're pretty serious anyway.
Fantastic. So you made a video in the past year called 25 Mistakes Every New Camper Makes That Will Ruin Trips. What are your top 3 to 5?
I think the biggest mistake that most brand new campers make, and actually I didn't even include this in the video, and I thought about it after the fact, is not really understanding the importance of having an air pad or some type of sleeping mat when you go camping. I know when I first got into camping, I kind of thought that a sleeping pad was more for comfort than anything. So I was pretty broke. I was a college kid, so I just went to the dollar store and I bought one of those blow-up pool mats, and I slept on that, and it was horribly uncomfortable. And, I was born and raised in Canada, so even in the middle of July, it was really, really cold. And I didn't understand that you needed to have a camping mat that had a specific R value for insulation for the environment that you're camping in. So I see a lot of new campers make that mistake where they'll just bring some blankets or something like that, just thinking they need a little bit of padding against the ground, and not realizing that it's not really as much about comfort as it is about insulating the ground from seeping the heat out of your body. So that's probably the biggest one. The mistake that I see a lot of new campers make as well is just around the area of fire, just not really understanding the tools that they need to bring with them to make a fire, understanding that you can't just go to the camp store and buy these huge logs and then put them on the fire and expect them to burn. And also not preparing for the event that you have a hard time getting a fire going, that maybe you should have some kind of a propane or a butane stove to help you cook, just in case the climate's not going to go in your favor, or if the wood's not going to burn well, you have some other way to make your dinner. So those are the primary mistakes that I see.
Well, I think some of the it's more of a sticker shock than anything is the price of wood in some of these camp locations year to year, how much they've increased. It's like 4 pieces, or, like 6 pieces for $8 now. I think we're up to some crazy number like that. That's outrageous.
Yes. And a lot of people, we're all on budgets in 2023, right? The, wallet's gotten a little smaller. And I do see a lot of people where they show up to the campground and they think, I'm just going to scavenge around in the woods and try to find, some wood. And some places do permit you to do that. But a lot of times, by the time that you get to prime camping season, it's so overpicked that you actually can't find enough wood. So
in some places it's a no-no, and they will make sure that it's a no-no to do that.
Absolutely. Yes, so the game wardens, they'll come around and they'll tell you, hey, you got to put that stick back in the woods. That's a natural part of the ecosystem. There are many tents that one can pick from. Just like many meals that you can choose to eat at dinner at camp. The wrong tent can ruin your weekend or possibly in your camping career because you're done with it. What are a few things to look for
in tents that one should avoid?
Well, I would say the best thing to look for is the rain fly. My personal preference is what I call a peak to ground rain fly, where there's a zipper that goes almost all the way to the top of the tent, and that zipper on the rain fly comes almost all the way to the ground, so that way you're going to get really good rain protection there. A lot of tents, especially larger tents, because families, I find, especially if you've got a couple little kids, you want to buy this big, huge tent because, the kids have all their stuff with them, and, you want to get, sometimes I see even families of 4 getting a 10 or a 12-person tent. That tent is a huge pain in the butt to try to set up. It's humongous. You definitely need 2 people to get it set up, and it doesn't really handle the wind really very well because there's so much surface area that if there's any wind and a storm or even a light rain happens to blow through, there's a huge chance that the rain fly is going to be disrupted by the weather and you're going to end up having leaks. And most people don't actually need as much space inside their tent as what they think they do. So I would recommend people, with families, that maybe they go and get a tent that's like 70% of the size they think they actually need. Because kids actually don't really take up that much space because, everybody's got their gear, but, they don't need all the things that you think you need inside your tent. So that way you can focus on getting maybe a better quality tent that's a little bit smaller instead of spending the same amount of money on a larger tent that is not necessarily the same quality.
Right, and a lot of times, especially as the kids get a little bit older, they are going to typically want their own tent. I know
sure.
I experienced that as a child camping, and people we've interviewed and other families that I know, at some point, your kids might stay in the tent with you, but then they'll want their own tent. So having a tent that might fit 2 adults and 2 small children would at one point be sufficient for 2 adults still, and then the kids would have their own tent too. So yeah.
And you talk about sleeping on the ground. Do you ever use a cot, or is that just an additional weight that you don't feel is necessary when camping?
Well, that really depends on the type of camping that I'm doing. So, if it's just myself, if I'm going out for 1 or 2 nights, I'll typically just sleep in a smaller tent on a mat on the ground. If I'm going to be camping for, let's say I'm going to be doing more of like a base camp. Like, for instance, I'm going to be going to Virginia this fall to the Shenandoah National Forest, and we have a campground booked there. We've got a site for 5 nights. So I'm going to be bringing one of my larger tents, and I'm going to be using a cot because I'm going to be stationary that whole time, and I'm using that campground more as a central location and then going out on day trips. So when I get back from, driving around and seeing the sights and hiking around and seeing the sights, it makes it a lot easier for an extended stay to have a cot that you can sit on the edge of to get dressed and, just not have to crawl around on the ground for, 5 days straight. Because I know myself, I'm not getting any younger, so the cot's definitely a nice thing. But if it's just a weekend thing, I'm just going to bring a mat and sleep on the ground. If it's just a couple days, I'm still young enough to tough it out.
That definitely makes sense. So when camping on public or private land, weather, can be an unpredictable factor. What advice can you offer if a person or family is caught in a pop-up storm when camping in a tent? What to do, what not to do if the storm is going to pass that might be different versus a whole entire night of extreme conditions?
Well, if it's a pop-up storm that kind of comes up during the day, if you can get inside of your tent and you feel safe, that's the real thing. As soon as you start to question your own personal safety or your family's safety, at that point, the best bet is to try to get to your vehicle if you have a vehicle with you. If not, the next best option, like especially if the winds really start kicking up, the next best option is to go and try to find some kind of a structure, whether it's a bathroom structure. Sometimes campgrounds will have even like picnic lean-tos. That's just going to give you a little bit more protection in case trees fall. I know I spent a pretty terrifying night. It was actually in Flambeau River State Forest, and a storm whipped up in the middle of the night, and the wind was absolutely outrageous. And I was sleeping in my tent, and I had my wife, who I'm now married to, but we weren't together at the time. She was in another tent. And I remember thinking, oh my God, one of us, we're going to wake up. There's going to be a tree crushing one of us. I can't see what's going on in this other tent. I hope I'm not going to get crushed. We didn't have, any shelter available at the time. And it was absolutely terrifying. So, if that happens, the best scenario is to try to get yourself to some location where you're going to be safe, because that tent, with trees falling, there's going to be some injuries if it lands on top of you. Now, if you're preparing to go into the evening, and you know that there is a hellacious storm coming overnight, I have done some additional measures for waterproofing, knowing that, maybe we're going to get, let's say, an inch an hour of rain from 12 till 2 a.m. I will actually bring an additional tarp, and I will put that over the top of my tent. And on the grommets of that tarp, I will use guy rope, and I will actually secure that to the ground, maybe 3 or 4 inches above the ground, so that the wind can't get up underneath it there either, just to give the tent a little bit more waterproofness, but also to apply some tension to the tent in case it gets windy, so that the actual structure of the tent doesn't get damaged as well. But, if it starts to get dicey, get to the car, get to a building. I know tents are expensive, but ultimately they can be replaced. Lives cannot, and injuries, you don't want to go down that road either.
And I'm going to guess, and I don't know, on state parks, they probably have some type of plan implemented where they have a shelter in which if bad things happen, you're supposed to go there until the duration of the storm is over.
Yes. And in fact, this is really, really common down south. I was actually at a campground in Oklahoma. I think it was Great Salt Plains or Great Salt Lake Plains, something like that. Anyway, they actually it was an underground bunker that you would go to for tornado, because the alarms would go off, and then you'd run to the tornado shelter that was underground. And in this underground bunker, it would probably house maybe 30, 40 people. It was pretty big, and it was left open all the time. And there were benches on both sides of it, and there was a crate that was left open that you could access that actually had military rations in it in case you got stuck there for a couple of days. It was one of the most wild things I've ever seen. But Carrie Underwood said it best. Oklahoma's known for their tornadoes.
Yeah, it would ruin a weekend of camping for certain.
Yeah.
You've tested a number of products on your channel, and we also all about buying once and buying right. Of all the products you've used, what is your favorite one, hands down? And then what are some products that you tested that you're like, I don't advise people to buy this, even though people may think it's good?
So my very favorite thing that I own is actually a thing for winter camping. It is a little oven. It's called a pipe oven, and it's intended to go between 2 pieces of stovepipe for a tent that has a wood stove in it for the winter. And you can just cook all kinds of delicious little things in there. Cinnamon rolls. I've made cornbread. You can even bake chicken in there, like little Cornish hens or something like that. All kinds of things that you can bake in there. And I really like to cook when I'm camping, so I get really creative. So that's my absolute very favorite camping item. If I had to pick a summer camping item that was my favorite, I would probably say that right now, it would probably be my GSI Outdoors 6-cup percolator, because, and that's another really simple thing. It's a kitchen item. But this little percolator has been with me across the country for years, and it makes a great cup of coffee. So, I really, really like that. know it sounds kind of boring, right? A percolator in an oven. But, that's the biggest thing that I enjoy when I'm camping. I like to cook. The things that I would tell people to avoid, the most negative experiences that I've ever had with gear tend to evolve around this theme of pop-up instant tents. I've tried a couple different ones, and they tend to get a lot of condensation. They don't tend to really hold up to weather at all. They tend to leak. And there's also been some kind of quality control manufacturer kind of defects with a few different models that I've tested. So, I mean, other than throwing a tent in the backyard for the kids to camp out, on a sleepover or something, I would really advise people stay away from the instant pop-up tents. Go with a dome tent. If you're new to camping, go with a dome tent because it's the most versatile tent. You'll probably be the happiest with it.
And do you, with all your hiking and camping, do you take a GPS, SOS radio? I don't know that Garmin has one. Garmin has one where you can SOS and relay information if you don't have cell service.
Absolutely, yes. We use the Garmin InReach. I have the full size version, and I will actually activate that for trips. So if I'm going for a period of time, let's say I'm going for 4 or 5 months in the wintertime where I'm not going anywhere that's really off grid, I will actually turn that off so that I don't have to pay that monthly fee, and then I'll turn it back on again when we go on backpacking trips. But when we go, especially when we're going places that are remote, like I've done some canoe trips in Voyageurs National Park. There is no cell service in the park, and most of the campsites there are just these little islands, and you can go days without seeing another person. If you were to get injured out there, it would be a really, really serious situation. And the other thing, too, that you have to think about, because, my wife and I, we typically camp just the two of us. We don't really bring friends with us. Sometimes we bring family, but that's usually pretty close to home. The most dangerous animal that you will ever encounter on trail or at a campground is another person. So 2 women camping alone, can be an easy target for would-be predators. So I like having the Garmin InReach just in case there was ever a situation where an unfriendly person came around. At least we would be able to send a text message in the absence of having cell phone signal to a family member to say, hey, you need to call the police, this, like a real short message, to get some help that way. So it's just a little bit of comfort. I've never had to use it. But one thing that I do recommend is that if you're going on a really, really extreme trip, like let's say, you're a middle-aged person, and you're kind of out of shape, and you're maybe planning on doing like a rim-to-rim hike of the Grand Canyon or something that is probably really above your physical level, it might not be a bad idea for that trip to upgrade your plan from whatever the basic plan that you're paying for to the more expensive plan that's like $75 or $100 a month or something, that covers rescues. Mm-hmm. Because if you hit that SOS button and you don't have rescue coverage, that's about, depending on the extent of the rescue, that's like a $20,000 mistake. Because your health insurance isn't going to cover you to be airlifted out of somewhere. So if you're going somewhere doing something crazy, pay the extra money and get the extra protection just in case.
Yeah, have it and never in the tensions of never needing it rather than never having it and bad things happen.
Exactly. Yep.
And glad that you've not had to use it or been in a position where you felt you needed to use it. And we hope that continues for you and your wife there as you journey on throughout the country.
What's interesting is Joey and I watch camping videos, and I always tell him that I really enjoy these hammock camping videos from these men who have the security that can go out and just hammock camp by themselves at night and probably not have to worry about their own safety. And so I really appreciate you bringing up the fact that, yes, there are things where we have to worry. I know, I hike solo, and it's something that's always in the back of my mind that I am putting myself in a vulnerable position anytime I do go hiking solo. And I think it's good to recognize that there's a certain amount of privilege for those people that can go go backpacking or whatever solo, and not necessarily have to always have that in the back of their mind.
Well, and I think, for most women, if you get that feeling, and we all know that feeling, if there's any women listening to that podcast, you know that feeling, the creepy guy feeling or the bad situation feeling. The minute that you get that feeling, you need to get yourself out of that situation. Sarah and I had a situation a couple years ago where we had been hiking and we just got all of our stove and everything out. We were just getting ready to start to make something to eat. And there was this group of rowdy guys that we noticed in the distance. They were kind of up on the bluff in the distance. And you could see that they had a bunch of beer and they were drinking and they were rowdy. And I thought, we need to go. We need to go now before they see us, because something bad's going to happen. There's 8 guys up there and they've all been drinking and they can hardly stand up, and this is not safe for us, and we need to get out of there. And, fortunately nothing happened, and I don't know if anything would have, but it's that intuition, rely on that, because, your instincts generally will serve you best in those situations, not just at camping, but in everyday life too.
Now, in your adventures, do you take any self-protection measures? I know Holly has recently purchased a stun gun for her hiking. Do you take any bear spray or anything like that in order to, in the instance that you have to cause somebody to back away, you can use it?
I do not. Like, if I am hiking in grizzly country, I will carry bear spray. Or if I am going to be hiking in areas where there's a dense black bear population, I will carry some bear spray. I don't feel the need to carry any kind of defense against another person. I guess I'm just relying on my own instincts and, just hoping that kind of thing doesn't happen. I wouldn't really feel comfortable carrying a weapon with me with the intention I might have to use it against another person,
Right.
That's, I don't like to think that the world is that mean. I'd rather just be vigilant and take myself away from situations as they arise. But you never know. The world's full of weirdos. You could meet anybody, anywhere, any day.
Right. Steve Wallace, the famous YouTuber, he says, I've got the bear spray for the 4-legged animals and the 2-legged if I need to.
Yeah. I mean, I guess worst case scenario, I've got my trekking poles. I'll come at you with that.
Definitely. So we've really enjoyed having you on the program. How can our listeners find out more about you and your videos?
Well, if they head over to lonecrowadventures.com, that is going to redirect you right to the YouTube channel. Or, of course, you can just search Lone Crow Adventures in YouTube. That will bring you to the YouTube channel. We also have a little Facebook page where, I'll just post some random pictures of things that we're doing and, different ideas and stuff I have. If you guys want to follow me on there, you can search on Facebook, Lone Crow Adventures. We'd love to have you guys join the Crow's Nest. We're a growing community, and we all love camping, hiking, and backpacking.
Well, Samantha, we thank you for your time and the information you've provided us. For not only Holly and myself, but all of our listeners.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. Anytime.
Well, we're very happy that Samantha took time out of her day in order to share with us things that will help us in our hiking and camping events.
Yeah, some great tips on safety and just really how to enjoy yourself.
So with that being said, we thank you for tuning in. We thank you for downloading the program, watching it on YouTube. And until next time, we will see you at I'm Joey Baird.
I'm Holly Baird.
And we will see you at the campsite.